As the war in Ukraine passes the one-year mark, the White House is preparing a new wave of sanctions against Russia. The United States now pledging $2 billion more to help the Ukrainians fight. Saturday, Ukrainian authorities reported dozens of new Russian strikes and attacks on cities in the east and the south. Several world leaders continue to call on China to help put pressure on Russia, and the U.S. warning China of consequences for giving help to Russia. It comes amid concerns China's on the verge of supplying lethal aid to Moscow. China denies those claims. Joining me now is Chuck Todd, moderator of Meet the Press. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Christy.
With President Biden's surprise trip to Ukraine last week on the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion into the country, what message is that sending to both Russia and now China?
Look, I think it sends a message of resolve. I mean, at the end of the day, American presidents going into a war zone without U.S. military presence there to sort of shield, that's something we haven't seen in decades. And it was a pretty when you look at all of the different sort of methods he had to travel by in order to get there, 10 hours on a train, dark of night departure from Andrews Air Force Base. So it was certainly something that I think personally helped President Biden send the message that, hey, he's got the vigor to do this job. I mean, that was not an easy thing to do. And I also think it certainly, we haven't seen Vladimir Putin show up in a war zone. We haven't seen Vladimir Putin show up with his troops. So I think it did sort of served as a morale boost to the European allies, a morale boost in Ukraine. The question is, does it help him here at home rally Americans to the side of Ukraine on this?
Well, in a recent Associated Press interview, First Lady Jill Biden mentioned that her husband was ready to seek re-election, yet a Politico report said there is some doubt he may run again. Are there scenarios you see where Biden does not run?
Look, when you're talking about somebody who's 80 years old, I don't think you can say there isn't. You can't dismiss a scenario that he may not run. I could tell you this, and what she wanted to say is, hey, look, we're running. We just haven't found the time and place yet to announce. Look, I think it's pretty clear they had planned to announce their campaign earlier. The classified document situation, I think, sort of delayed their plans. But everybody I've talked to on this, all of my sources indicate they're going to announce something probably before the end of March and at least have a campaign headquarters. But at the end of the day, until he files, till you see his name on a ballot, I think somebody who's 80 years old, there's always going to be some shred of doubt until the filing deadline passes.
And one quick question about one of your guests this morning, Jonathan Alter, who authored the book His Very Best, Jimmy Carter, A Life. How do you think his book is reshaping how the general public thinks about the Carter presidency now?
Well, I do think it was due to have a sort of a look back, through the lens of history. I mean, when you look at, when you look at that, his one term, look, it was, some of it was outside forces that couldn't be helped. Some of it was his management, his style, how he handled things internally inside the Democratic Party. But he also had some accomplishments that sort of lingered throughout. I mean, the decision to fund and arm an insurgency in Afghanistan was Jimmy Carter's decision. And that ended up helping bankrupt the Soviet Union and helped end the Cold War. Now, it also arguably got us involved in Afghanistan in a way that we've still struggled to untangle ourselves on some 40 years later. But then there's Middle East peace between the Israelis and the Egyptians, and the fact that that is held, again, something that President Carter oversaw. But look, there's no doubt, I think the bigger legacy he left was as a former president. And I think he showed that you get this platform as a former president. You can use it to make money for yourself, or you can use it to use that platform to do some other things. He showed how to use that platform to do more public service, whether it's Habitat for Humanity, the Carter Center, human rights around the world. And in that sense, I don't think any other former president can hold a candle to the post-presidency that Jimmy Carter staked out.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much. Meet the Press airs at 10 right after 11 Alive Weekend Morning News.